I'm Avya. I'll be taking your interview for front-end heavy full stack developer today. Please be comfortable and feel free to share your thoughts. You can start with your introduction.
So my name is Shubham Rawat and I have about 3.5 years of experience working working with React. I have worked for the past 3 years. I have worked in two different companies. For the first year, I have worked in Learnest, where I have integrated cash fee payment, and I have also created the fast checkout feature. And in the current company Osmos, mm, I have implemented various features like creative library, and also helped in the migration of old dashboard to the new dashboard.
You mentioned working on dashboard migration and feature implementations at Osmos. How do you ensure your JavaScript code remains maintainable and scalable when handling such complex front-end projects?
So in order to make the JavaScript code in order to make the code maintainable, we have created functions which are used for just one operation. So we have created uh, one util library where we have created all the functions, all the custom functions that are required. So whenever we have to make changes to any function, we make sure that we make change at one place and it get reflected in all other places.
You mentioned creating a utility library with single operation functions for maintainability. How do you handle asynchronous operations in your projects to improve user experience, especially in complex dashboards?
So in order to maintain asynchronous operations, we have used different libraries. Mostly we are using Redux Thunk in order to create the asynchronous actions, so that we can maintain the asynchronous behavior in in our code. And when creating the complex dashboard which contains various reports, we have also implemented lazy loading over there, along with mm, along with the use of intersection observers, so that only only the reports which are visible in the viewport, only they gets loaded, and the data is also gets loaded afterward, when also gets loaded afterward when the reports come in the viewport.
You have mentioned using Redux Thumb for async actions and lazy loading with intersection observers for dashboard reports. How do you incorporate TypeScript features to enhance type safety and reduce runtime errors in your front-end projects?
So basically, we have not used TypeScript in our current code base, but I think TypeScript is very useful for maintaining the type safety in our project. So we basically have used a little TypeScript in one of our project, which is based on Next.js. So there we have implemented type safety using TypeScript. So we have created all kinds of interfaces types defined for all the objects that are coming and for all the props. So it has made debugging very easy for us in that particular project.
You mentioned using React and Next.js with TypeScript in a project. Can you describe a recent project where you applied React.js and Next.js to solve a specific problem?
So basically we have created a separate library or separate repository in which we have created a Next.js project which is used to maintain the websites of hundreds and thousands of dealership of different companies. So they have, if we want the landing pages for each of the dealers which are in our dashboard, so for that we have used Next.js. And along with that we have used Strapi in order we have used Strapi uh, to use Strapi to store the data of different dealership. So with the use of Strapi, a single dealership, a single website template can be used to create websites of different dealerships.
You explained the use of Next.js and Strapi for dealer websites. How did you optimize this React/Next.js application for performance, especially considering the scale of hundreds of sites?
So basically we have created the we have created the website in such a way that it can be used to uh, we have created the template in such a way that is it's very lightweighted. We try to move all the in order to even to reduce the cost, we have moved most of the assets to AWS because Next.js was costing a lot. And in order to reduce various calls, we have in order to update the website as soon as the data changes, what we have used a Strapi webhook. So whenever the data changes in Strapi, the websites of the dealer get automatically updated with the latest content.
You mentioned using a lightweight template, AWS for asset hosting, and Strapi webhooks for updates. Can you share your approach to managing state effectively in this React/Next.js application?
So this was the very lightweight application. So we did not require we did not require any app in we have just use state in order to manage our state in that particular Next.js project. But in our main dashboard repository we have used redux redux in order to maintain the overall state. And along with that we have used various context in order to maintain state between different launchers, like campaign launcher and creative creation launcher. So we have used the mix of use state, use context, and redux in order to maintain the state in our application.
You mentioned using use state, use context, and Redux for state management across different projects. How have you applied your knowledge of front end frameworks in a recent project, and what specific challenges did you face while implementing them?
Uh, so one of the projects we have recently made. So one of the project was to mm, migrate the old LMS to the new LMS. So in that we have to change all the all the actions and the queries for the new LMS dashboard. But what happened is we have to revert back all the changes that we have done for the actions and the query. So in that we have to write a, a, a function which is used to convert the current payload to the payload as it was previously. So it took a lot of difficulty in order to test that, but after successfully testing the feature we were able to implement and make it live within timeline.
You described migrating LMS with complex action and query changes. How do you ensure code quality and maintainability in such front end projects during challenging migrations?
So we have to make the code in such a way that in order to maintain the quality we made sure that the actions we write are very clean. We have to if we have made changes to all the required codes wherever it was required. So mm, in order to maintain the quality we have created various components and breaking down each component into reusable forms so that it can be used at various places, and we made sure that the same component can be used in both mobile and desktop application. So in order to maintain the code quality we have done a thorough code review of each and every piece of code that we have written.
You mentioned breaking down components for reuse and conducting thorough code reviews to maintain quality. What strategies do you use to keep up with the latest trends and technologies in front end development, and how have you applied them in your work?
So we have tried to use various um, in order to follow the latest trend. We have used various libraries that for creating animated front end. We have used framer motion in order to implement the various animations in our application. We have made use of we have made use of backend powered forms and table in our recent inventory creation table. We have made the config of both form and table from our from the config or schema which is created in the backend, and using that schema which is fetched from the backend we have created the table, and it can be updated, and the changes that to be made on table and form can directly be done on from backend without making changes on the UI.
You've shared how you use framer motion and backend powered forms for dynamic UI. Can you describe a situation where you had to choose between different front end technologies for a project and what factors influenced your decision?
So basically, we have not used any different technology. As I mentioned before, we have used our main project is in React.js along with Redux, which is our dashboard, and we have used a different framework, or you can say we have used Next.js only in order to implement our in order to create the websites of different dealers, because for creating the website we required organic traffic. So in order to improve the SEO we have used Next.js. Other than that, we make heavy use of Strapi in order to power our apps which can be shown and implemented using by just making changes on to Strapi without redeploying the front end.
You've explained your use of React.js, Redux, and Next.js for SEO benefits. How do you handle challenges related to integrating backend services like Strapi with your front end to maintain performance and reliability?
So we have used Strapi in various places in our project. So first of all, we have a app-based system. So we all the apps gets loaded from using Strapi. So we have created different schema in order to create apps. So we can directly install all the apps to different agencies wherever we require. And in order to maintain the performance and reliability, we make sure all the changes made to Strapi are reflected at once in our project. So in order to use that, we have made use of Strapi hook. So whenever there is any change in Strapi, it's get it gets it gets updated on the front end, and it also maintains the performance because we just have to make the changes in Strapi and everything get handled by itself.
Can you explain how you prioritize the different phases of front end development in a project? Please provide an example where your approach improved the final product.
So in order we have the different phases in our front end project include writing the code basic code, and we try to discuss. uh, so we write a small tech spec, and we write a small tech spec for any new feature, and that tech spec is discussed with all the team members, and then we get all the different kinds of feedback from different team members. And after that, we start with the we try to make sure all the APIs are ready from the backend side, or if they are not present, we try to go ahead by using the mock data, and we try to make sure every case is handled. For that, we try to write the test cases before implementing the feature.
You mentioned writing test cases early and using mock data when APIs aren't ready. How do you ensure your code is reusable and pixel perfect, especially when working on complex UI components?
Uh, in order to maintain the code reusability, we try to break down each component into different subcomponents, and we try to follow the design schema in design system in order to create pixel perfect component when working with complex UI. uh, After implementing the feature, uh, we give the feature to the QA team, so they check all the features along with their implementation in order to maintain the flex maintain the quality of the overall product that we deliver.
You shared your approach to component breakdown and QA involvement for quality. Can you describe a situation where you had to address performance optimization in a front end project? What steps did you take?
So basically, for while loading the app for the first time, we have to make 5 different API calls. So all the data from those APIs was required in order to load the first in order to load the component. So in order to improve the performance, we try to move all the all the initial calls to the backend. So a single we have resolved all we have used promise.all in order to fetch all in order promise.all in order to fetch all the different in order to fetch all the API calls in all the API call and use just one endpoint in order to fetch all the data. So because of this, the so the initial load time has reduced from 2.5 second to half second.
Imagine you discover a complex UI bug affecting multiple components with tight deadlines. How would you prioritize your approach to identify and fix the issue while ensuring minimal disruption to the user experience?
So if one bug is affecting different component, we have to uh, first we have to check what particular thing is is affecting the different component. First we have to make sure jot down all the points where that particular component is used. After after making sure, we have to make changes in a place where that particular thing has been affected, and after that we have to do a thorough testing after making changes to that particular component. And this bug, first try to think of all the scenarios before implementing or solving that particular bug.
You mentioned identifying all affected components and thorough testing after fixing the bug. How would you improve the performance of a heavily coupled UI component without breaking existing functionality?
So in order to improve the performance of a heavily coupled component, we have to make sure that we have to create a mind map we have to create a mind map or a small diagram where that particular component is used. We have to check the flow of all the state, all the props that have been passed to different components from the affected components. And we have to make sure that it's not breaking the existing functionality by making sure that the current props that are being passed are not changed when we are fixing that particular component.
You explain mapping component usage and checking state and props flow to avoid breaking functionality. Consider a scenario where a new feature requires major changes to interconnected UI components. How would you decide the best approach to implement this feature while minimizing risks?
So in order to make major changes to the interacting component, we have to make sure that the props that are passed to the old components never change. So if any of the prop is getting changed while implementing this new feature on the top of those interacting component, we have to make sure that the components should not change its initial state. And we have to also try to maintain the security of our app while doing so.
You mentioned ensuring props don't change and maintaining app security during major UI changes. You're tasked with refactoring a legacy front-end system with many dependencies. What strategies would you use to handle this complexity while ensuring efficiency and maintainability?
Um, so in order to change the legacy component, we have to mm, make sure what first we have to jot down all the points where we are going to make the changes. And putting down all the points where we are going to make the changes, after that we have to check how we can ensure efficiency. If after what we have to check that the previous test cases are not breaking because of migration of the new functionality. And whenever we are introducing a new prop, we have to make sure that we provide some of the default values to that particular prop, so that it does not get affected, so that the old functionality remains the same.
Now let's move on to the coding round, where you will be given a question to solve.
Given a list of domain I is equal to A and B is equivalent to domain J C D if and only if and only if either A equal to C, A equal to C or B equal to D, or A equal to D and B equal to B, A equal to D and B equal to C. This is one, that is one domain can be rotated to be equal to another domain. Return the number of pairs for which I is equal to that one, one, one.
dominoes array length increases significantly, how would changing the current nested loop approach to a hashmap based frequency count affect the time complexity and performance?
So in order to increase the performance, what we can do is uh, let me think for a while. So for this mm, we can use a hash map in which we can first we can think of uh, storing mm, storing different sum together. For example, we can calculate the sum of both the numbers, and we can calculate sum of both the numbers like 1 and comma 2. Then we can keep the key as 3. We can keep the key as 3, and in that we can store all the elements all the elements which has sum 3. We can store in that particular element and use that.
You mentioned using the sum of the domino numbers as the hash map key. How would this handle dominoes like 1, 2 and 2, 1 versus 3, 0? Would this approach correctly identify equivalent domino pairs?
So what we have to do is we have to store all these domino in one pair, and then we only have to compare. Then what we can do is we can compare each domino in that particular sum range, so that for all the elements which are present in the array of 3, we just have to compare all those instead of going through the whole array. So it would reduce the time complexity it would reduce the time complexity. But we have this approach might not work in this particular case, where we have the same sum from different digit. So for that we have to use a different approach. So what we can do is, instead of creating the key as sum, we have to use a different approach. Mm, so
You acknowledged the sum approach might fail. Can you explain an alternative way to uniquely represent each domino so that equivalent dominoes map to the same key in the hash map?
mm, so what we can do is we can sort all the uh, we can sort both the elements in the array. So what we can do is mm, we can sort the element such that the element 1 comma 2 and 2 comma 1 both will become 1 comma 2. So we can sort all the elements, and we can make the new key as 1 comma 2 as 1 plus 2. So for the key would become 12 for both 1 comma 2 and 2 comma 1, and in front of both of those keys we can we can create the count. So from that count we can derive the number of possible ways we can use those in order to get this count of unique domains.
Thank you for completing the interview. Is there anything you would like me to share with the team?
uh, yeah, uh, I would like to know more about um, the kind of work that we are going to get in that particular organization if we get selected. And I would like to know the different tech stack in which they are working.